Good evening, it is I, Roncar. It is my pleasure to be with you in this evening. The medium in her meditation asks you to think of the transformative power of the moon. As its light shines upon the earth, it brings other things into focus than you normally see in the daylight. The sun is very bright. You tend to see things, I'm going to say in black and white, but it is not black and white, it is in full color. But what I mean to say by black and white is that you have an understanding, and that understanding is what it is. And sometimes, with that understanding, you are not open to seeing anything different other than the way you have been seeing it, what you have thought about, your belief. Everything remains stuck in the way that you see it, in the light of your mind, in the light of the sun, so to speak. The sun brings wisdom, but the moon brings inspiration. And since the light is different, it can allow you to see things in a different way. And this is important for you to know, that there are many ways to look at the same thing. You all know that depending upon where you are standing when you are looking at something, you can see something entirely different from another position. And if you think of looking at an elephant, is an excellent example. Because an elephant, when you are looking at it head on, it has big eyes. It has, either little ears or very big ears, depending upon what kind of elephant it is. And it has a long trunk, which has the ability to pick up things, whether it be a small peanut that you are offering him, or some other grains off the flat palm of your hand that it can sniff it in, take it in its trunk, like in its nose, and then put it in its mouth so it can eat it. It is interesting, but that is the view of an elephant from the front. And if you step around to the side and look at it, you get an entirely different view. The elephant is really big. You see the side, and you see its rough skin, and you can't see the trunk, the way it picks up things. You see it at an odd angle. You can only see one eye. You can't see two eyes. You can't see its mouth, its teeth moving while they eat things. There are many things that you can miss when you are looking at the side of an elephant. And then if you move around to the back of the elephant, wow, then you can see its big hind feet and its tail, which is kind of skinny. And it is so different from the trunk. And it kind of swishes around a little bit, like many animals move their tails, but it does not really do anything the way the trunk does things. So depending upon where you are looking, you see entirely different things when you look at an elephant, because he is so big, he obliterates pretty much everything else that you can see, because all you see is elephant. Now, if you step back further and you keep moving backward, this also changes your spot. The way you see the elephant, while it is big, you can now see things that are to either side of it, and you get a different view of its size. You can see its back. You can see if it is covered with tapestries, as it sometimes is. Does it have a robe over its back, like a horse wears when it's going to wear a saddle? Does the elephant have a saddle up there that you can sit on, or something to hold on to if you were on top of it? There's so much difference to see in an elephant. And the way it behaves and what you are thinking about the elephant changes. And so this is good to remember. What you see is not always the same. What you understand also changes with what you can see. So if you were just looking at the front of an elephant and you were standing fairly close, you may not be aware of exactly how big it is because you just have a head in front of you. But when you step to the side, then its enormous size became more accurate, more obvious. And so this gives you a different view of the elephant. And this is true of all things. Now, last week we talked about changing your viewpoints, and this week I wish to talk about it some more because it is important to realize how this affects your life. The ability to know something in different ways and understand things in different ways and understand things at different times that you could not understand. When you were a child, there were many things you could not understand about life. As you became an adult, as you became a parent, you learned more things about life. And so you were smarter and you could have a different viewpoint on parents. As a child, you may think that parents are dictatorial, that they're always telling you what to do when you want to have fun. They are making you eat things you do not want to eat. But when you become a parent, you realize that it is your responsibility to take care of this child and help it to grow, which means that the child must learn things out of books from school, must learn to read and write, must learn geography and mathematics, and many different things, that they can't just eat what they want. They need to eat a balanced diet. And you need them to take baths to keep their skin clean and keep themselves clean. These are important things. And so you realize as a parent, you are not being dictatorial. You are protecting and taking care of your child. And so you have a different understanding of what a parent is. And then, of course, there is the process of getting old. And you are all somewhat on the old side. And so you are aware that this brings about a diminished capacity for doing things. You have less energy than you used to have. And yet you still feel responsible for many things. And you take care of yourself to the best of your ability. And your viewpoint on getting old changes again because now you have reached that point where you have less energy. And you know it is important to conserve your strength. It is important for you to continue to eat healthy, to continue to exercise so that you can keep your body as strong as possible and live as long as possible in a full life. You have reached a point in time where you realize that you, in a moment, can change the way you think about something. This is an ability you have. You can come to new conclusions. You can decide exactly what you want to believe in some cases. It does not matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what other people believe. It is what you think that is most important. And so when you hear people speaking about something, you will form your own opinions. And you can be swayed in these opinions to be more understanding and follow the arguments of the person you are listening to and come to new conclusions. You can change your mind about something. This is an important talent for everyone who is on the physical world. This ability to look at something in one way and then also to see it from a different viewpoint in a different way can help you live a happy life. For by reframing, for that is what it is called, reframing the way you look at something, this can make you feel happy or unhappy about the actions or the words of someone else. You can choose to make judgments based on a little information or a lot of information. And so what you believe can be changed from what you listen to from a small point of view, from a short point of view, to one that is more lengthy and gives better understanding. Excuse me. I have no control over the medium sometimes. So you can choose to look at that sneeze, and you can choose to think whatever you want to think about the sneeze. You can think it could not be changed, that it had to be done. You could also think that it was up to the medium to stop it. But it is not a matter of opinion. She has somewhat given up her ability to be in control. And so I do not always know how to control her body. And there are some things I do not seem to be able to control, such as a sneeze, a cough, sometimes a yawn. But this is what happens when the medium is not in control. And you can choose to think she should be in control to do and take care of these things. But it is the life force of being a medium. While she is in this state, she is not totally in control. And so if I cannot control it, I cannot be helpful to her. At any rate, this is just an example of a viewpoint that you might have or not have. It does not matter. So it is totally up to you how you judge things, whether you judge them with a lot of information, a little information. The most important thought to think about when you are making judgments is this judgment that you are making about what is happening making you happy, or is it making you unhappy? Because you see, your judgments, your ideas, your thoughts are what determines whether you are happy or unhappy. And if what you are thinking is making you unhappy, such as you are thinking that a person, Lady X, does not like you, and that makes you unhappy because you wish to be liked by Lady X, why, then that is not a good thought for you. It makes you unhappy, and you want to be liked. So why don't you suspend your judgment? You don't know whether Lady X likes you or not. And it is more preferable for you to think that she does. And so you can look for those clues which tell you Lady X likes me, rather than looking for clues which tell you that Lady X does not like me. You see, you have that power. And so it is as simple as that. When you decide that perhaps Lady X does like you, you can keep that judgment, make that judgment that this lady does like me. And you can feel happy about that. You don't have to take the thought that this lady does not like me, and that makes me unhappy, and it makes my life unhappy because I think that. It's so simple to change your mind and the way you think. And the way you are thinking determines how much you like your world and the world that you live in, how much you like your family members, how much you like your friends and neighbors. If you see them as good and you make the judgment that this is a good person who likes me and wishes to help me, you feel good, rather than making the judgment that this is a person who doesn't like me. And she is not helping me the way I want to be helped, so I do not like her. And does that make you happy? Probably not, because most people like to be liked. And you can do that yourself simply by making the judgment, this person likes me. And then you will notice little things, a smile, a grin perhaps, that will tell you this person does like me. See, she is smiling at me, she likes me. And that makes me happy. It is entirely up to you. What you think determines whether you are a happy person or an unhappy person. Happy persons live happier lives, obviously. Unhappy people are unhappy in their lives because they see everything in ways that makes them feel bad and unhappy. But this can be changed. It simply takes practice. And so while this is very similar to the lesson I gave you last week, this lesson can also help you live a happy and therefore a more healthy life. And so I hope you will take this in and do your best to choose to look at your world in ways that make you happy, so you can feel happy, be healthy, and live well. Okay, are there any questions? I believe there is one.
Well, I have been grieving a lot, grieving for my husband and grieving for my parents, especially because they didn't leave this world with I don't think they felt as loved by me as I would have liked them to feel. And I'm wondering if I'll be able to see them again and show them how much I love them and how much they meant to me, as well as my husband, who has been gone since, well, I guess it's going on 6 years. And I miss him a great deal. He's been part of my life since I was 17 and a major force in my life in so many ways. I could truthfully say that he saved my life several times, that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. And so I would like to know if we will meet again.
Yes, and I understand your question is also what happens as you die.
Yes.
When you make that transition. And I will be happy to speak about that.
Okay.
Or making the transition is generally a blessing for most people. When they die, many people are sick before they die. And so they have pains and they are unhappy over how poorly they are feeling. And so when they make the transition, everything is well, everything is peaceful, everything is good. The immediate discomfort of the body disappears. You simply do not feel them as you leave the body. There is no sense of pain upon separation. It is simply a relaxation and a freeing that you are given. When you first enter into the new state of being a spirit, let us use that term, of being a spirit, for you have no body, but you are still cognizant, and you feel as if you have a body, except this body no longer is a problem to you. It is perfect in every way. Because your body is only part of your mind when you are in spirit. There is no actual body. And so you are feeling good. Now, you are concerned about your husband and loved ones, your parents, on their transition, but on your transition, it is very likely that these people that you care about so much will be there to help you through the transition. Now, what do? Well, mostly they come to you and they are comforting forces which allows you to reorient yourself to your new situation. You see your mother and father, you see your husband, you see other siblings, if you had any, who have already passed on. You may see old friends and loved ones who have died also. They may be there for you. They may not be there for you, but that isn't an indication of anything. It is just what you need on transition will be there for you. And usually it is your beloved people, the ones that you love the most, your friend, your very best friend, your husband, your parents, if they were your very best friends and they helped you and were good to you, they will be there for you. And so basically they guide you. And most people say, those who have come back describe it as a white light. They get taken into a tunnel of white light and they emerge at another place and location, which is the non-physical world. And there is, at this time, a life review. You think, or you see before your mind's eye, you see the major incidences in your life. So you see things, good and bad, that you did. When you were kind to people, you get to see how that kindness helped them. When you were unkind to people, you also get to see what that unkindness did for these people. So you get a review of your rights and your wrongs, so to speak. That is what is often used. Your sins, as they would say. A sin is just a mistake that you made. And given more knowledge, given more time, chances are you would not have made the same decision. You would not have behaved the same way. Given a little bit of time, a different place, other elements. But you get to see your sins and how these things may hurt others. You see the effects of everything that you said and did. Now, as I describe it to you, it seems like that should take a very long time. But it really is only in this instant, for there is no time in the spirit world. And so, having done your life review, you then get to move on, so to speak. And people like to think of going to school. You get to decide what it is you would like to learn and know. So In a sense, it is going to school. Because as spirit, you can look into things past and present in the future for yourself from the point of view of the last time period you were in. But it is not extremely detailed, so that if you ask me a question about something going to be happening in the future, I cannot give you details of everything that will be happening because I cannot see them either. They are in the future for you and from the time period I am in. And so it is vague for me as well as it is for you. But I can give you some good ideas of what is happening. And mostly I will take the opportunity to ensure you that all is well. And that is because almost everything turns out in the physical plane to an eventual goodness. I do not know how else to rephrase that. Eventually, everything turns out right. And you get to understand, you get to know, you get to grow on the physical plane. You learn about yourself, and you learn about the effects of the things that you do. For as you grow older, and everyone on this here tonight have already recognized that you are all more knowledgeable than you were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when you were much younger. You know how to behave so as to avoid causing problems for yourself and sometimes for others. You have more knowledge now. You know what to say and do and what is expected of you in society. And perhaps you have already learned the ability or obtained the ability to reframe the things that have happened to you so that you can see them in the best light possible, to allow yourself to feel at peace and comfortable almost every day in your life. These things are good for you. They are demonstrations of how much you have grown. And so, if you live to be in old age, you are more blessed, well, you are less likely to need further education. But as I have said in the past, while you are in spirit, you cannot do the one thing that you could do on earth and in the physical, and that is to create. It is one of your God talents that you can't possibly use when you are in spirit. You cannot create. And so that is why you look toward coming back into the physical world in a new body to try to create the perfect life, one which is happy and one in which you cause and bring about happiness and well-being for others. And that is your goal for most incarnations. And so,
does everyone get reincarnated?
if they wish it, and most do,
Mm-hmm.
because as I said, the most alluring thing about being in the physical is the ability to create. You created your life as you have experienced it. You created a time with your husband that you remember fondly. Sometimes he was helping you, and there were times when you helped him. And this is important for you to remember, that there were times that you gave to him. And it was these times that he knew that you loved him. that you made special efforts to accommodate him, to make him happy. These he could see, that you appreciate the things that he did are now obvious to him in spirit. And so living and reincarnating is often desired. In a sense, I have come forward to talk to you, to give you encouragement, to give you ideas and thoughts that can help you with your life. So, although I cannot create these things for you in your life, perhaps you will take my thoughts and my words, combine them with your own wisdom and understanding them, decide to take the kind of actions that cause you to be happy and make you happy. And then in that way, I am creating on earth, even though I am not creating on earth. And that is highly desirable. Do you have further questions about it besides whether most people reincarnate?
Well, I'm thinking about, I do feel my husband's presence around, and I'm wondering, so do you think he's somewhere else? Like, has he been reincarnated, or is he waiting? How do you?
No, I do not believe he has been reincarnated. You feel his presence. That is because he is watching after you, so to speak, or thinking about you and your physical life at this time.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I really do believe that in lots of ways. It's more than just coincidence that he's, you know,
You
did I
feel
tell? Yeah.
you feel his presence, and then, something good perhaps happens, or it helps you to think clearly and make decisions.
Right. And I think I did share back a few weeks that I found a recording in my phone where he had predicted some things and they happened. And I never realized that I had the recordings on my phone. He must have transferred from his phone to my phone. And I found these recordings when I wanted to record some.
Yes.
And it's like he predicted that my granddaughter would have, he didn't say a child, he said children. And she had 3. She has twins and a little boy. And then he said, Danny, our son, would bless us. And no one would have thought that a 58 or 59-year-old man would have children at that age. That now so in the 5 years that he's gone, 5 babies were born. It's like, and he had said that in the recording. And so
He was moved clairvoyantly to give
wow,
you.
yeah, I couldn't believe it. And the only thing with my parents, though, unfortunately, I had an unhappy childhood, and I kind of blamed it on them, and I wasn't very loving, and I regret it. And so that's the two that really hurt me, that I didn't show them how much I really did love them.
Yes, but when you get into spirit, you can see
I will
those
be able
things,
to.
understand those things.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
that, they are aware that you love them, particularly as now at this age, and I'm sure even prior to this age, You acknowledged that they wanted the best for you. And
Yeah,
even
they were
though
right, right.
your life may not have been the happiest as a child, it was an attitude that you had to grow out of, that you had to learn differently,
Mhm.
but that you did learn that lesson and you grew to appreciate them and love them even more. And so that is what you must remember.
Okay. And could you give me a little insight as to losing a child through a miscarriage? I think I shared with you a while back that it was my husband and I that didn't realize that we could have prevented it from happening by not engaging in whatever. And he was a perfectly formed little boy, and he didn't live. He was like maybe a pound or so, and maybe in the 6th month, I'm not sure how many months I was pregnant. And I was afraid to, my husband said he was a perfect little boy, and I was afraid to look at the baby, and I didn't look, and I just cried. And so I never got to see him. I was afraid to look at him. And I'm just wondering, what happens with that, losing a little child like that? And will I ever, what happened to him?
Well, yes, I miscarriages
Yeah,
are very often devastating to the people in the physical. But what happens frequently is that although there was a spirit there who may have wanted that particular body and to have been with you and your
yeah,
husband, that they realized that the body, although it was perfectly formed, something happened to its during its formation that left it and left you unable to carry it to full
yeah.
task.
And but I really feel that it was our fault. That
You,
and
excuse me, but you really must not cling
it
to
was like
that
50.
thought.
It was over 55 years ago.
That,
Actually, to be exact,
that,
it was about maybe 54 years. It was over 50 years ago.
that
Yeah,
thought is exactly what I was talking about in my discussion of this evening.
yeah,
For you to think that thought, that it was your fault, that you and your husband caused that baby to die in the womb,
yeah,
that makes you unhappy. And so you can continue to think that thought and continue to be unhappy over it by changing that thought. Because in truth, that thought is not a correct thought. That you could not prevent it. It would have happened anyway.
yeah. Okay.
That is the truth. You could not prevent it. And although you may think that refraining from something was the cause of this baby to die, that is not the case. But you persist in the thought and you continue to make yourself unhappy. And you had yet another son that
Yes.
came along. And this could be the same spirit
Well, no, it was after
after your
I did
husband.
have a child afterwards. It was a daughter, a younger daughter. In other words, I
I
have an older
understand
son and daughter, and then I lost this little boy, and then I had a
a daughter,
daughter a few years later.
but it could be the same spirit. Spirit has no gender.
Mhm.
It isn't a male spirit for a male baby and a female spirit for a female baby. It is a spirit which comes into the body that is available for it. And so it could be the same spirit that
Mhm.
animates your daughter. You see? But
Mhm.
if you cling to the fact that somehow you caused the problem, you continue to make yourself unhappy. You need to forget about it, or you need to reframe it and say, it is the truth. Nothing could have happened. Nothing could have prevented this, because that is the truth.
Okay. Thank you.
You cannot be responsible for things that happen during gestation unless you are deliberately choosing to have an abortion.
No. Was
And you did not deliberately choose that situation. It happened. And unless I am wrong, it happened rather surprisingly. You did not realize that you were possibly in the process of losing the child when you lost the child.
right.
And so, how could you be responsible for it? You were not even aware that your body was rejecting the infant at that early stage.
Right. Yeah.
It could not be you. It happened without your knowledge. So do not consider yourself as being responsible. And if you stop thinking about that, you will not be unhappy with it anymore. You can
Mhm.
let it go and say, I was not responsible. I did not realize this was happening. I did not try to have it happen. So how can you be responsible for that? You would not have wanted it to happen. You did not want it to happen. And yet it happened. So you cannot blame yourself for that. It is not something that you did wrong or you did deliberately.
Great. Thank you.
So that is the one illustration of how you can change the way you think and also cause yourself to be happy. And also by realizing that once your parents were in spirit and they realized that you grew beyond the young child who was unhappy with many things, that you eventually learned to be happy and that you did love them and you respected them. That is what is more important to them, not that you were an unhappy child. So you can change your thoughts on these things
Mhm.
and think about a more optimistic and happy life from now until you decide to make your transition. And sometimes you will not realize that you have decided that now is the time.
So you think that we are the ones to decide when it's time to go?
Sometimes, yes, but you do not think about it consciously. There are
Mhm.
many people who have grown very old. Those people who in their late 90s or early 100s or close to being 100, they would wish they could transition, but they cannot physically cause it themselves.
Well, I do have an aunt, Aunt Vera, my mother's sister, who my granddaughter figured out had lived through 3 centuries. She was born in 1897 and she lived all through the 1900s and she died in 2001. So she was in the 1800s, the 1900s, and then the 2000s. And
Yeah.
she was, over 100. And I remember going to visit her. I visited her at the nursing home and she kept saying, why am I still alive? Why can't I go? I, I would like to go or something. And then, yeah, I
Yes.
remember her saying
That
that.
is frequently what happens when people live to be a great age,
Mhm.
because they have
They
lost
grow-
all
yeah.
their friends, they have lost many loved ones, and they feel useless. They
Yeah, I
cannot
think
do
that's what
many things.
Mhm.
And so they become unhappy at living to such a late age.
Mhm.
However, they are performing a service, even though they do not recognize that. By living to such a late age, they are allowing people to take care of them who enjoy this work and like to be of service. So
Mhm.
therefore, they are allowing people to be of service to them. And this is a service on their part by allowing this to be. And so they are helping others in their lives. They just do not realize it because they are thinking only of themselves. They
Mhm.
are not thinking of the others who benefit by helping them.
Right.
And so they become very unhappy, but eventually they too transition.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it is important to think that, understand there are many people who wish they could just die and get it over with, particularly if they are ill. But they are still hanging on because they have strong bodies, and these bodies are keeping them living. And this is good. And so they are actually performing services they may not recognize.
Mhm.
Are there other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you feel better now. I expect you to feel better now. Do you understand? You
Yes.
must feel better now.
Mhm.
I know I am being silly, but to have learned the lessons from this evening, that you know, and as a result, you no longer carry guilt over the death of your child, and you understand that that these things do happen without your ability to control. There are so many things in your life which you cannot control, and you are not responsible for things that you cannot control. And so this would not be shown as something terrible. And it is very possible, if that spirit has not come through as your daughter at the later time, that you will meet that spirit. And but I do not believe that he will show up at a later time, that he has already incarnated as one of your own children at that later date. He might even say, I never wanted to be a boy.
The other thing is, I didn't want any more children, and she was a surprise. She really was. I We weren't planning on having another child after we lost. We didn't want another, and there she came. So
Yeah,
she was really a surprise child. She wasn't planned. Let's put it that way.
there are many children who are not planned.
And,
Do not worry about it. And
mm,
if you did anything wrong in that previous pregnancy, you did everything right for the last one.
mhm.
Are there any more questions? Then I think
Okay.
that is probably it for tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. It is my pleasure to be of service in this way, helping you to find clarity and I give thanks that you have come tonight to ask your questions and get your answers. And so we are all blessed.
I feel blessed. Yes.
So I give you my blessings. Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
I am back. Okay, it's me, Norma, and I'm okay. I'm here, and I just wanted to say to you and to Julia, remember, I love you all. Good night.
Good night. Hmm.
Okay, well, made it an interesting evening. Thank you very much, Charlotte.
Oh, thank you. I really, again, feel very blessed that I was able to